The thrill of the chase. There are few things in the world faster than a sighthound with a glimpse of its prey. Lure coursing, today on Top Dogs. Welcome to beautiful Abbotsford, British Columbia. I'm Al Stafford with color commentator Linda Webster, and we're here this weekend for the lure coursing field trials. You'll be seeing family pets rather than hunting dogs, but lure coursing actually simulates the practice of hunting. And Linda, this is an event involving all sighthounds. Let's talk a little bit about sighthounds specifically.
Yes, Al, these dogs are a group of dogs that hunt by sight, but it's their running ability that separates them from the rest of the breeds. Here we're going to watch them chase a white plastic bag around the field.
We have two rabbits who appear to be joining in the course here.
Well, that's not the bunny they'll be chasing, but the competitors today will be chasing that white plastic bag that Linda told you about, and it's affectionately referred to as the bunny. Now let's feature a couple of the competitors from each of the breeds we'll be seeing today. From the Whippets, Zappa and Ragin. Zappa competes in agility and obedience. Ragin competing in fly ball. From the Afghans, Houdini and Kita. Kita is a Canadian show champion and an oval track champion. From the Basenjis, we're looking at Pepper, who is a Canadian and American show champion, and Lily, who's one of the youngest dogs in the field. And from the Greyhounds, Matisse and Obsidian. Matisse does everything at top speed, and Obsidian, among other things, is already an oval racing champion. Well, they put the finishing touches on roll call here in Abbotsford, BC, and the competitors and handlers stand by to get ready for racing today. We want to give you a closer look at the sport of lure coursing.
Dogs, tally ho!
I just love this sport. This is where you can truly enjoy your dog in their natural range.
What it is it's a simulation of a chase, simulating what a live rabbit would do and how the dogs would follow a live rabbit.
They are judged by two judges on how well they do on the course. And the categories are enthusiasm, follow, speed, agility, and endurance. So you need a fast, agile dog to do well at coursing.
Well, blue didn't get my average.
Okay.
But pink got one over my average.
Oh, did it? Oh, no, pink, yeah. Okay.
They're judged on agility. How they can corner is a big part of it. It's certainly not who crosses the finish line that wins at lure coursing.
The dogs love to run, basically, and they're just wonderful to watch them run. They're so graceful.
They're all sighthounds, which means basically they hunt by spying their prey and running fast after it.
And they're all pretty well the same build, and you want to see the same running characteristics out of them. They have the double suspension gallop, which means they're off the ground at 2 times. They're in the tuck position off the ground, and they're off the ground when they're in the stretched out position.
So it's normally the young dogs who will do really good on this because they're so focused on it. And as the older dogs, the instinct of lure coursing starts to take over, and they start fanning out. As you're going to see here, there'll be dogs all over the field looking for that there bunny.
I think it's fun for the dogs. It's it gives them a chance to get out and do what they're meant to do. They're sighthounds, so they're meant to get out there and run and show some speed. And in most living environments, they don't get the opportunity to really fulfill that.
I've been doing this for 20 years, and every time I come to the field, it still just stops your heart for a minute to see that drive, that run, that screaming, that Whippet war cry. They're just awesome little hunters.
Let's take a look now at the course the competitors will be running this afternoon. 715 yards in total length, and not sharp turns necessarily, but changes in direction to simulate what a rabbit might do out in the wild. Afghans will be the first competitors challenging this lure coursing course this afternoon in Abbotsford. We'll run the competitors and give you a quick glimpse of them. Bart, Houdini, Zoe, Aries, and Barney, and the other 5 of the 10 Afghans, Texas, Radar, Nike, Marky, and Kita.
Not the fastest of the dogs on the coursing today, but absolutely the most gorgeous to look at.
And an Afghan is certainly a dog with a lot of character.
They're sort of on that level of training. They sort of do it if they want to, if you can't play fetch with them, because you throw it and they kind of look at you like, well, you threw it, you go get it.
As we mentioned, the Afghans are up first. We also told you they ran preliminary heats this morning. We're looking at final heats now this afternoon. In the blue blanket, that's Nike. Kita is in the pink blanket, and Barney is wearing the yellow blanket. Tally-ho, and they're off. And it looks like Nike got fooled there on that first turn, and Kita seems to be closest to the bunny at this stage.
The closest to the bunny is not necessarily what we're going to be actually looking for all through the course. We're looking for enthusiasm of the dogs, how they follow the bunny, and the speed that they actually run, the agility of the dogs, and the endurance of the dogs. Will the dog last that whole course?
So simply because a dog finishes first or gets the bunny at the end of the course doesn't necessarily mean that that dog will be declared the winner. And the course, as you can see, sometimes it's difficult to spot the bunny as well because of that high grass. Getting towards the end of the course now, and Kita staying tough, very close to the lure, and Kita gets to the lure first at the finish line.
Oops, Nike took a little stumble there on the rough terrain. But look at Kita, just a powerhouse, a go-by on those other two dogs. Nice agile turn there.
So we tally up the judges' scores, and Kita wins the heat with 141 points overall. Barney in the yellow blanket with 137 points, and Nike finishes third in the heat with 127. More Afghan racing coming up in a moment. Welcome back to the lure coursing field trials from Abbotsford, BC. We're going to show you some of the preliminary heats the Afghans ran this morning. There's Houdini out for a quick stretch before Houdini runs in a heat. And preliminary scores are combined with scores from the final heats this afternoon to determine an overall winner. In the first heat this morning, Barney was actually the winner of the heat. You can see Barney getting caught up on the lure there. That was a bit of a problem with some of the Afghans in the heats from this morning. Heat number 2, Texas runs over Radar, but Radar bounces back actually to win the heat and was first after the prelims. Nike and Kita running in heat number 3, and again we've got a tangle. That's Nike tangled up this time with the lure. And in the final heat it was Zoe and Aries, and no real trouble for these two dogs as they ran the heat. In fact, Zoe and Aries finished tied for second place after the preliminary heats. Here's a rundown of the top 5. Radar with 142 points in first going into the final heats. Houdini, Zoe, and Aries tied for second spot, and Kita is third. Back to live action now, and this is heat number 2 of the finals. And we're looking at Radar in the blue blanket. That's Bart in the pink in the foreground, and Zoe is running with the yellow blanket at the moment. Radar seems to be running pretty good.
Zoe is edging a little bit on this. And here comes Bart. Bart made that corner very well. He's running extremely stretched out.
The closest to the lure so far, Bart running a very smooth heat at this point, and in fact, leaving the other two dogs in the heat trailing considerably. Radar trying to make up some ground now. You can see Zoe running in the distance, and Zoe looks to be a little bit confused. Here's Radar now cutting across the course and gets fooled as the lure makes that sharp turn there. We get to the finish area, and Zoe is the first to come up to the bunny.
In the replay here, we're watching Radar going for that bunny, but he missed. Look at that dog tumble. He'll get up. He'll be all right. Here's Bart running. Look how smooth he is. He's just powering through on his strokes. He wants that bunny.
And Bart's ability to follow the bunny leads to a score of 142 points. That's the best in this heat. Zoe had 139 points and Radar had 125. They quickly restring the course, and we get set up now for heat number 3 for the Afghans here in the finals this afternoon. Wearing the yellow blanket is Aries, and wearing the pink blanket is Texas. And these dogs are anxious to run. The traditional tally-ho signifying the start of the race, and both of them are hot after that bunny right off the start.
Look at Harry's though. Oh, another tumble.
It's a bad spill. I get the sense that the footing might be bad down at that end of the course. We've seen a lot of dogs tumble in that area. Texas is now following closely behind the bunny.
Did you see that agile turn that he did there? And he's doing well.
Good job tracking that lure. Texas staying out in front of Aries here in heat number 3. And now Aries is drawing in close and has actually passed Texas. Looks like Aries is a little bit better in terms of endurance here as we get towards the finish area.
Goodbye, Texas.
And Texas gets to the bunny first. Aries goes for a bit of a stroll.
Aries in this tumble here, it must be the long grass or the rough footing where they just can't keep their feet underneath them. But she's up and all right. She looks for the bunny, and she's off again.
That Aries seems to be no worse for wear after that tumble, and judging by the judges' scores, a pretty good run for both Aries and Texas. They tied with 140 points. That brings us to heat number 4. Houdini, wearing the yellow blanket, is one of the 2 dogs in this heat.
He's really keen on the lure. He likes the lure. He likes to get the bunnies. The Afghans like chasing, like running. That's what they were bred for. So it's, helps them keep their instincts up.
And wearing the pink blanket, that's Marky, the larger of the 2 Afghans here.
Oh, Marky did a real number on that. He took off totally in the opposite direction.
Now that looks like anticipation on the part of this Afghan, though. It looks like Marky knew exactly where the bunny was supposed to be and made a beeline for that spot on the course.
But that's going to count against him in... that's going to count against him in the final judges' score.
A near collision there between Marky and Houdini is clearly the better of the 2 dogs in this particular heat, tracking that bunny very closely here through the tall grass, and nice, easy turns. Marky's trying to make a show of it coming from behind, but once again, going to a spot on the course rather than chasing the bunny all the way around the course as Houdini is doing.
That's where the follow comes in. Houdini is much better on follow than Marky.
They get to the finish area together. It remains to be seen how the judges will score this.
Marky has cut the course to get to that bunny. He overshoots, so his follow is very poor in that area.
So what happened out there?
Oh, this is normal for him. I say he's better at showing in the ring than he does on the field. He likes to entertain people. That's what he does.
Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Here's the scoreboard then from that final heat, and we have Marky with 130 points, Houdini, the better of the 2 dogs there with 140 points. Here's a rundown now, and you can see the combined totals. Houdini, Kita, and Aries finishing in a tie for first place, so there will be a runoff later this afternoon to determine the overall champion among the Afghans. The next breed up on the race course will be the little Basenjis, and we'll have that for you from Abbotsford in just a moment. Welcome back to Abbotsford. The Basenjis are getting ready to get out there and attack this race course, and we've still got Whippets and Greyhounds to come, so plenty of speed here on Top Dogs. And while the handlers get the Basenjis ready, let's show you the competitors in this class. We're looking at Violet and Lily, Fleur, and Desher and Tucker. 4 other dogs we've got as well: Manny, Jua, Pepper, and Nick.
These little sighthound dogs are from Africa originally and referred to as the barkless dog. They tend to yodel rather than bark.
Here's some of the action from the preliminaries this morning. Violet, Nick, and Lily running there, and running pretty good. In the lead is Violet in the yellow blanket. This is heat number 2 now between Fleur and Manny, and Fleur just takes off, trying to guess it where the bunny's going to end up, and that mistake proved to be a little bit costly. Heat number 3, Jua and Pepper, and you can see Jua makes the same mistake. Both dogs end up in the finish area at the same time, though.
Well, we took a guess on the first corner, and it was the wrong guess. Well, she's coursed a fair bit, so if they're heading towards the trees, they'll quite often go, it's going to turn right or left. Well, she picked right, it went left, and we never did find it again quite.
And this is the fourth heat from the prelims. Tucker in the yellow blanket and Desher in the pink. And both dogs running pretty well. In fact, as you can see, Desher first overall after the prelims, and a three-way tie for second between Tucker, Pepper, and Manny. Violet is third with 138 points, just 5 points behind the leader after the prelims. Here's a look now at the dogs in the first heat of the finals. That was Manny in the blue, Fleur in the yellow, and Pepper is wearing the pink blanket. They get away clean, and they get tangled up there going into the first turn. Pepper comes out ahead by cutting the corner, but it's actually Manny with the best chase so far on that bunny.
Manny has lots of speed. Look at him go. His follow is excellent. His agility there at that corner, very good. Oh, he nearly had the bunny there.
And you can see that Pepper is trying to make a race of it right now, but Manny the class of this particular heat at the moment. And I would imagine, Linda, that it's very important for the dog to keep a close follow on the bunny, particularly the short stature of the Basenji, because it's tougher for the dog to see that lure through this long grass.
You're right. But, oh, he just took a tumble there. But he's up, he's at it. They will chase anything that moves. As long as they can see it, they'll chase it.
Fleur cutting the corner now as we get to the finish area. And Fleur is first to the bunny as the bunny actually stops, and we've got Pepper and Manny now. A little playtime following that race. A great heat for Manny. One little problem, though, and that was this tumble right here. You can see the dog's hind legs actually come up, but Manny pops up quickly and gets right back to the bunny. Good heat for Manny, 142 points overall, 5 points ahead of Pepper, and Fleur finishing third in this heat with 133 points. They'll restring the course. We get set for heat number 2.
Desher's got just 3 generations behind her on one side, outside of Africa.
Well, she's in first, isn't she?
Yes, she's in first. Oh, hey, you can't tell until after the second run what happens. This afternoon, if she goes out and happens to lose the bunny, she might not come up that well. It just depends. And sometimes that bunny gets kind of tricky out there.
Are you ready?
Yes. Desher wearing the pink blanket and Nick wearing the yellow blanket right now. And Nick veers off to the left. Desher right on the bunny off the start.
Nick is, his follow is not going to be marked as well as it could be if he just stayed on the bunny like Desher. Desher is following very well. Whoops, a cut on the corner here, but that doesn't mean too much.
Get a maximum of 15 points for follow. The dogs are marked out of a total score of 100 in the 5 separate categories: enthusiasm, follow, speed, agility, and endurance. The 2 big categories are speed and agility, a maximum of 25 points each in those categories. Desher staying tight with the bunny, but you can see Nick has made up some ground as well. And both of these dogs running on the inside of the course now and anticipating each and every turn. Nick stays tight as we head to the finish area, and it's going to be close. The marks, I would imagine, will be pretty close for these 2 animals. A tangle there right at the end. No problem, though, for Nick and for Desher. A good finish.
Is that mine? Or you have a red slip neatly?
While they untangle things and restring this course, the 2 judges will tally up the final marks for Nick and for Desher, and we'll have those marks for you here in just a second. There they are. Desher with 138 points and Nick with 137, and that's good enough for those 2 dogs to challenge now for the overall lead. The next heat, that's Violet you're looking at in the yellow race blanket, and Lily is wearing the pink here as we get ready for heat number 3 of the Basenjis. And Violet got away quickly. Is that going to cost Violet marks there?
Yes, it is, Al. That was a pre-slip on Violet. The dog was released before the tee and tally-ho, and the judge can deduct points depending on how much an advantage the dog may have gained by that pre-slip.
And it's a 1 to 10 point range there, but as you can see thus far, very little advantage to Violet. In fact, because Lily is the dog closest to the bunny at this stage in the race.
She's stretched out, she's running smooth. Got enthusiasm there. Look at those turns. Those turns were good. She's off in the grass a bit and jumping to find that bunny, but she gets right back onto it again. That's good.
Lily back on the race course. I like that nice tight tail curl on the back of the dog there as Lily heads towards the finish now, and a good heat both for Lily and for Violet, who comes in right after in the finish area.
Look at Lily. She's going to do a go-by on Violet here, but I think Violet stumbles a little bit. Yes, and Lily keeps on going.
Terrain has been an issue for some of these competitors this afternoon. The score is 144 points for Lily, 137 points for Violet. When we return, we'll have the final heat for you of the Basenjis, and we'll show you some Greyhound coursing. Clouds beginning to stack up in the sky over Abbotsford, BC. The Greyhounds will be the next competitors on the race course, but we've got one more item of business to take care of, and that's the final heat for the Basenjis. That's Tucker wearing the yellow blanket and Jua wearing the pink blanket. And they're away clean. Jua gets a break off the start as they head out chasing the bunny.
You notice a lot of the dogs are wearing muzzles. This is not because they're vicious, it's just to prevent injuries when they all congregate on the bunny at the end of the course. It also helps to protect the dogs from the line that's used.
Pretty quick event so far for both of these dogs. Again, Tucker wearing the yellow and running just outside the bunny, and now right behind it, and Jua wearing the pink blanket.
That was good agility there as he turned that corner.
Tucker in the yellow blanket finished in a tie for second after the preliminary heat this morning, so there is something on the line now as Tucker tries to finish this course. A good showing here could easily keep Tucker in the top three today.
Tucker is showing a great speed as well.
Again, as we get towards the end of the race course, the dogs slow a little bit, but remarkable endurance for this Basenji. And Tucker grabs the bunny as we get to the finish area. And there are the scores. Tucker with 144 points, tied for first in the final heat with Lily, and Jua finishing with 140 points, so a good showing by both of these dogs. Here's the final point totals now. Tucker wins it with a total of 283 points. Manny and Desher with 281 points each, rounding out the top three. Now let's take a look at one of the most important people on this lure course.
My title is lure operator, and it's to make the dogs do the hunt for the rabbit.
Walk your dog, tally ho!
I play tag, catch me. That's the best description for it is tag. You're it, come get me. And that's the fun part of it. Yeah. Howie and I came up with this machine, and well, we're proud of it. While it's spinning, all I do is engage it like this, and the harder I engage it, or less often, how I can vary its speed. I speed the lure up throughout the course according to the dogs are running, and I'll try to, if they're one is wide or whatever, I'll slow it down a bit to try and bring that dog in to get the best run I can out of that dog. This is Dacron cod fishing line. It's a 130-pound test. It's safer for the dogs than some of the thinner stuff they have. You'll have a speed dog, you have a slow dog, you have a dog that's agile. So you try to get a course set up where it's fair for all three.
We judges, the worst we can do is bruise egos, but the lure operator is really important. He has to know the running styles of the breeds and to be safe.
So my job is to get the best run out of all three dogs and trying to get them to come in together. I love it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
The Greyhounds will be our next competitors out on the lure course. Let's take a closer look at this breed.
Most of the Greyhounds here are show track crosses as far as what their background is, and they're multi-purpose dogs. They're, first of all, pets, but they're also racing and lure coursing dogs.
One thing that's really interesting about today is, with one exception, all of the Greyhounds that are entered were actually bred for lure coursing. So they're not dogs that have been rescued from the track. And that's not well known, that Greyhounds don't always just run on the oval track down in the States, that they are bred as pets here. They're bred as lure coursing dogs like this dog was, and like most of the dogs that are entered today.
Let's give you a close-up look now at the 8 greyhounds we have running here this afternoon on this lure course. Blondie, Dark, Matisse, and Silver are the first 4 in the group of 8. We also have City, Vita, Obsidian, and Sophie. Before we get to this afternoon's final heats, we want to run down what happened in the preliminary heats from this morning. That's Sophie in the blue blanket. Just coming back on screen there, a slight spill for Sophie, and that was costly. Obsidian won the first heat. Obsidian wearing the yellow blanket right there, and you can see the power in that particular competitor. Obsidian will be tough to beat this afternoon. In the blue blanket in the third heat was Blondie, and Blondie ended up finishing first in the preliminaries.
I'm quite surprised, actually. Some pretty impressive company, so I'm quite surprised she did that well. Pretty happy about it.
After the preliminary round, as we mentioned, Blondie with 144 points. Obsidian was second, and a 3-way tie for third. Dark, Vita, and City, and 4 points between the first dog and the tie for third place among these greyhounds. So it should be an interesting afternoon of racing. That's Vita in the pink, City in the yellow, and Matisse in the blue as we get set for the first of the final heats. Matisse has a little trouble getting away from his handler, but now all 3 dogs are away, running powerfully. And Linda, they're all very fast.
They're very fast. Matisse there, who got a little bit of a bad start, always places in the top 2 greyhounds, so he obviously does very well. He's only 2 years old, but he's going to be a good dog in the future.
You can see how equal these 3 competitors are, all of them very close to the bunny at roughly the halfway point on this race course.
Matisse is following very well, too. I think Vita kind of cut the course there a little bit to be up in front so far ahead there.
We had a spill there. City fell, and Vita will get to the bunny first at the finish area. Matisse gets there second, and City comes in and seems to be fine. Let's take a look now at what happened back there on the race course when City went down. You can see Matisse cuts across, and City runs into Matisse's hindquarters. Matisse stays on his feet, and City goes down. Now, how unfortunate. The dogs seem to be fine, though. We run the scores for you. Matisse with 143 points. City and Vita, 142 points each.
Here's a girl.
Here's heat number 2. That's Blondie in the yellow blanket. Obsidian wearing the pink. And in the blue blanket, that's Dark. Dark finished in a tie for third after the prelims and is in tough in this field. Obsidian was tied for second, and Blondie was the leader after the preliminary heat.
Yes, but look at Dark go. She's doing very, very well. She's cutting here, but Obsidian is also, he's coming on strong, very strong. He has been #1 greyhound in Canada in lure coursing for a couple of years. There's Blondie. I think maybe a little bit outclassed on this run here.
About 3/4 of the way through the race course now, and you can see Blondie chasing Obsidian. And there's Dark. Dark waiting for the bunny to catch up. And all 3 dogs arriving at the finish area at roughly the same time, and a pretty good effort by all 3.
Oh, but look at Dark. She's limping. Obviously something went wrong in there.
Let's see if we can pick it up here on the replay. It doesn't look like Dark was really having a problem at that particular stage, and you can see how strong Obsidian was running with Blondie. This is in the earlier part of the race.
I wonder if it wasn't when she was cutting the corner a little bit there where it happened.
Obsidian with top marks in this heat with 146 points. Silver and Sophie are next up on the course. Let's find out what happened to Dark.
You know what? I didn't even see it. I'm not sure if she slipped or I think she just... Yeah, I think she just twisted her front foot. So.
But she's okay?
Oh, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. Thanks, though.
So Dark seems to be okay. As we mentioned, Silver and Sophie are waiting to get out on the course next, and we'll have that for you in just a moment. Well, the skies continue to threaten, but we're still dry here on the course. And this is the final heat now for the Greyhounds. Silver in the yellow blanket, Sophie in the blue, and they bang into each other right off the start, but manage to get untangled without either dog going down, and away they go.
I think that has to show enthusiasm from Silver, who really wants to get that bunny. You can see her here, she's really motoring.
Silver far and away the better of the 2 dogs in this particular heat. Sophie seems to be having a little bit of trouble keeping up and is taking big wide turns on the inside part of the course.
You notice their double suspension gallop where when they're stretched out they're off the ground completely, and when they're collected they're off the ground completely again.
into the finish area, and both dogs shoulder to shoulder, Silver and Sophie, and they they tear the line away. It'll take a couple of minutes to restring that. They both want that bunny.
Here's that double suspension gallop I was talking about. It's really emphasized by Silver here. Isn't it beautiful the way she's stretched out?
The judges tally up the points, and it's 145 points for Silver, 139 for Sophie, 145 points, the second highest point total we've seen so far this afternoon. Overall, Obsidian is the winner for the Greyhounds with 288 points, Blondie finishing second with 285, Silver finishing with 284 points. And as we show you the rest of the field, let's introduce you now to a couple of other unique breeds in this sport.
She's an Iberian hound. They're Spanish hunting dogs. They hunt rabbits. They usually hunt rabbits in packs. She loves to race. She gets a little out of control sometimes. She has knocked over several people on the field coursing before. She's knocked over a photographer and she's knocked over a judge. So I call her the enforcer.
Okay, she's a Scottish deerhound. The breed is used for coursing deer in Scotland, and now that there's no more, you're not allowed to course deer in Scotland, they now chase plastic bags. I knew I'd fall in love with any kind of dog, a puppy of anything, and everything that I read about them and learned about them for my personality seemed perfect. It seemed like a perfect match. She gets a different personality when she comes to the coursing field, and she is a real softie when she's at home.
And now the moment this crowd has been waiting for, it's the Whippet races. And just before we get to the actual race action, let's show you the competitors this afternoon. Lil Max, Bandit, Blue, Bubbles, and Dexter. We've got a big group of Whippets for you this afternoon. Lily, Duchess, Murray, and Norton. That's 9 so far of the 18 Whippets who will be racing here this afternoon in Abbotsford, BC. Here's our third group of close-ups to show you. Ragin, Rocky, Spirit, Skipa, and Tiffany. And we've got 4 more Whippets to round out the field today. Twister, Wiley, Lulu, and Zappa. And just before we get to the first heat for the Whippets this afternoon, we want to show you why this breed is so popular.
They're just beautiful dogs, and I don't know, just the way they look and when they run, it's magnificent just watching them. It's just their body in motion. It's, we just love the way they look.
I love their athletic ability when you're out in the field and they can take off and really demonstrate some phenomenal ability. And then at home, they're just couch potatoes, really quiet, sweet dogs.
Greyhounds were the big dogs for the royalty, so this is where the Whippet developed from, and crossbreeding down from Greyhounds and probably Terriers.
This is where we like to see the newbies' faces, because they see their Whippets at home, where they're so regal, they're contained, they're gentle, like living ornaments. Then they come here, and they're nuts.
Oh my goodness.
They scream, they yell, they chew leashes. We love it when the newbies leave them uncrated in the car so that they rip out all the padding and everything. That's really neat to see the first day. Movement excites them. And they have enough terrier in them to just bring out that little kill chase instinct.
You'd never know that these wild barking dogs out here are just wonderful to live with. We just really like them.
And here's a review of the preliminary standings after the heats this morning. Bubbles in first place with 149.5 points. Blue and Bandit come next, and Ragin just 2 points off the pace. The first heat this afternoon, Spirit in yellow, Twister in pink, and Wiley in blue. None of these three were in the top 5 after the preliminary round this morning, but they're all running very well so far this afternoon. There you can see that Spirit cutting across the course and has left himself off course altogether. Twister and Wiley trying to chase down the bunny now. Twister doing a very good job.
Notice the running style of the dog. It's very similar to a greyhound, only just a little bit of a shorter movement. That's because they're a little lower to the ground, of course.
Getting near the finish area now, and Twister is the dog closest to the bunny as we get to the finish area, and that should bode well for Twister. Wiley going for a bit of a sprint, coming in late, and all three dogs are all over that plastic bag now.
Here's Twister doing a very good follow. Look how smooth and graceful he is as he runs.
Very fluid these Whippets are, and really exciting to watch. We'll take a look at the marks now from the first heat of the afternoon, and Twister with 149 points, Spirit with 144, Wiley with 143. Crowd getting ready for the second heat now. And we have Tiffany in yellow on the far side of the screen, Lulu in the middle in pink, and Rocky wearing the blue blanket. And they get away about even. Lulu and Rocky battling it out now to be closest to the bunny.
Yes, Tiffany took a wrong turn, decided it was going somewhere else. But Lulu is doing extremely well.
You can see how deep that grass is out there just a moment ago, watching Lulu plunge down better than shoulder height. And certainly the height of the grass is going to be a bigger issue for the Whippets than it would be for the Greyhounds, which are the larger dogs. Lulu running very strong here now as we get to about the three-quarter pole. Big high strides in that deep grass, and the one final turn to get into the finish area. And Lulu is tight to the bunny all the way in. Rocky comes in next, and Tiffany wandered away a little bit. That's going to cost Tiffany some points. Here comes Tiffany now.
There we go.
Point totals, Lulu with 148 points, Rocky with 147, and Tiffany wandering away the latter part of the course, finishing with 135 points. Another exciting group of Whippets waiting to tackle this course, and we'll be back to show you that. Another 4 heats coming up on Top Dogs. Great scenery here in this location in Abbotsford, BC, and we're getting ready for heat number 3 as the Whippets continue to wow this crowd here. Ragin is wearing the pink blanket in this race. Little Max is in yellow, and over on the left-hand side of the screen, that's Blue in the blue. And Blue and Little Max get away quick, but Little Max goes left. Ragin's having a bit of a problem as well. And Blue is closest to the bunny at the early stage of the race.
Blue is just showing an amazing amount of speed. The other dogs had to cut the corner just to try and keep up with him.
A slight stumble there by Ragin, but no problem picking up the stride again, and Ragin has gained a lot of ground on Blue. Blue goes down. Oh, that's a terrible tumble there, and it's going to take a while for Blue to get the stride back up. Ragin is now closer to the bunny. Blue hot on Ragin's heels, though. Should be an exciting finish here. It's going to be a tough one for the judges to call.
Oh, that was a good course. Excellent.
All 3 dogs get to the finish area roughly the same time. And let's take a look. Here's we can see what happened to Blue. Just goes down in that long grass.
These are the little dogs with big hearts. They really put everything into it.
A big cartwheel in that tall grass by Blue, and Blue's handler's checking the teeth. Blue seems to be okay, and wow, those are some great marks. 151 points for Blue. Blue is the leader with 3 heats still to come here. Murray is wearing the blue blanket in the next heat. They're going to have to refasten the plastic bag to the line before the next heat can run. That's Lily in the pink, and wearing the yellow blanket is Dexter in heat number 4. The dogs are a lot calmer at the start line than some of the other breeds we've seen earlier today, but once they get let go by those handlers, then they're away to the races. Dexter veers left, unfortunately, off the start. He's going to have to come from behind now.
Oh, Lily's running away with this. And the follow of that dog. Wow, she's determined to get that bag. The other 2 have cut, notice? Oh, a big rollover by Murray there. He'll catch up.
Lily setting the pace without a doubt, very close there, and Dexter coming up in second spot, but Lily has been by far the fastest of the 3 in this particular heat.
I think Lily's doing an excellent job. The others are kind of cutting and mowing back and forth over there, but she's right on the line, right on the lure.
Stayed with the course all the way through, and first into the finish area as well, and defending the bunny once Lily gets there.
Here's that area where Lily does an absolutely great job of overtaking those dogs that kind of cut a little bit, but she's on the lure. Look at the follow on that dog.
An outstanding run by Lily, and the marks reflected 149 points. You know, it sounds like these dogs sometimes make a lot of angry noises at each other, but they actually really like each other.
The Whippets are very breed prejudiced. They love other Whippets. They love other sighthounds. Actually, I have Whippets and a Greyhound, and they love other dogs of their same breed.
Heat number 5, that's Norton in the yellow blanket. And Norton will be up against Bandit in the pink and Zappa wearing the blue blanket. And these dogs a little bit more excited than the last group of 3 we saw. But only Bandit gets away quick enough and right behind the lure. The other 2, Zappa and Norton, veering off to the left. That gives Bandit a definite advantage here in the early going. Now Zappa cutting across the track. We've seen several dogs try that so far today, none with any great success, but Zappa doubled back on his own tracks pretty quickly and is now the closest dog to the bunny.
But not necessarily the dog that's going to win this course, due to the fact that he did do a lot of cutting. Oh, and he really did go for a tumble there.
Wow, head over heels, and that puts Bandit closest to the lure as we head down the home stretch into the finish area. And Zappa seems to be running pretty quickly, so no problem, no apparent injury there from the animal, which is good news.
Here's a look at what happened to Zappa. It looks like he just caught his feet. He went head over heels, but he's up and at it and ready to course again.
And as you can see, Zappa trotting away happily, no apparent damage there. Bandit with 146 points, Norton 144, and Zappa with 143 in heat number 5. And that means we're getting ready for the final heat now of the afternoon. His Whippet's entertaining this crowd. And in the final heat, on the right, it's Bubbles in the yellow, Duchess in the pink in the middle, and Stipa on the left. And Stipa and Bubbles get away after the bunny the fastest.
Oh, look at that, a go by Bubbles. Oh.
Duchess is cut across in front of our camera location and cuts across the area where the bunny is now to get back in this competition, but just can't keep up to Bubbles and Stipa, who are running almost shoulder to shoulder and have been since this event began.
Bubbles is showing good speed here. Look at that turn, good agility.
Great follow on the bunny all the way around the course. You can see that Stipa has dropped off the pace a little bit, and Duchess has rejoined that group of 3. We'll give you a good indication as to why Bubbles was the leader after the preliminaries this morning. Look at how smooth and fluid this dog runs, and it stayed very close to the bunny all the way through this course.
Come on.
The scores? Bubbles with 150 points, Stipa 147, and Duchess with 144 points. We're going to tally up the final results now and take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll introduce you to today's Top Dogs. Welcome back to Top Dogs from Abbotsford, BC, and it's time for the awards presentation when they hand out the ribbons and the prizes to the various winners in the various categories today. And while they're doing that, let's show you the leaderboard from the Whippets lure coursing event this afternoon. Blue is the winner overall, 300 combined points in the 2 events from today. Bubbles finishing second, just a half a point separating those 2. So it just goes to show you the margin of victory for a top dog is very slim.
He's run very well. It's the best he's come out and run. He's just turned 2, but it was nice for all of them because Bubbles, who was second, and Twister, who was third, they're all litter mates.
Tucker was the top Basenji in his very first competition.
He followed the bunny really well, which is, I think, a part of the secret, I guess, to as long as you keep out of everyone's way and you follow the bunny, you get a high score. So he did that very well today.
And a ribbon for one of the veteran coursers here today, Obsidian, finishing as the top Greyhound.
All the competition was really great today. There were 9 wonderful running Greyhounds, but he just has that extra gear that he puts in whenever necessary, whether it's lure coursing or the oval track, and he does it almost every time.
Now, among the Afghans, we showed you earlier, we had a tie for first place after the afternoon heats, so we had a runoff between Aries, Houdini, and Kita. You can see Kita there getting into the finish area first, Houdini right behind, and Aries finished third with 136 points. Kita declared the winner with 145 points, and this is a big victory for a dog who is already 9 years old.
She's the top pointed dog in Canada in history of lure coursing for Afghans. She's running against dogs that aren't even big males, that aren't even 2, and she's an old lady, so I think it's a good gender thing. Definitely.
So that wraps up this exciting lure coursing field trial. On behalf of Linda Webster, I'm Al Stafford saying so long from Abbotsford, BC.